Those are the things that really can make your program something that others aspire to. Those are the things that really
Edye Eden's Kulkarni law firm, and I am here today with Courtney Romaine of Florida Atlantic University. Thank you so much for joining us. And
thank
we
you
are
for having
kicking,
me.
oh my gosh, yes, this is a blast. So we are kicking off another new series. So we just finished up a great series that was working through several different issues. What we're going to do in this next series is talk about academic medical centers. What is it like to be, whether you're at the Human Research Protection Program, one of the many offices underneath that, misconduct, conflicts of interest, the IRB. So, Courtney, you want to talk a little bit about what you've been working on?
Yeah, so again, thanks for speaking with me. So one of the things that we really focus on here at FAU, at Florida Atlantic, is developing those relationships and partnerships, not just within the institution, but broadly as well, closely with our sponsor programs, with our chief compliance officer, with our general counsel to address and implement any requirements that are institutional or statewide or federal wide. As soon as something new comes in, immediately we're looking at it and saying, okay, who needs to be involved? How are we going to process this? How are we going to implement it? What questions need to be asked? And that usually involves someone from research integrity, my office, someone from sponsor programs, if it requires them, again, general counsel, chief compliance officer, or the provost's office, if it's something that faculty and students need to worry about. We
Mhm.
also have a really great network within the state university system in Florida. So our partners over at University of South Florida in Tampa, and we started a network a few years ago called the Compliance Alliance. Like I said, kind of a statewide network where we bring issues, conflicts, challenges, confusion to this group and just put everything out on the table. We share each other's stuff. I have borrowed their policies, they borrow our policies, but it goes beyond that. We actually invite them to attend any education and training that we're doing that focuses
Mhm.
on responsible conduct of research, or if we're doing something that focuses on, for example, a foreign influence law. If we're going to be
Mhm.
doing a training with our faculty on foreign influence, maybe that's something that they want to be a part of as well. So we really like to bring them in and share the knowledge and do
Mhm.
this sort of crowdsourcing.
There's something about in academia, the trust comes to me, at least it seems, a little faster. I feel like industry is so competitive, rightfully so, that it's a little almost suspect if someone reaches out and says, I want to build a support team of people, who are all like us facing similar issues. I also think that there also becomes a privacy issue, right? Like there's all sorts of concerns when you get to a sponsor level of like, I don't want you talking to other sponsors. I don't want you talking to other sites about what's happening. And rightfully so. But academia, they do it well. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about how much trust you feel like inherently existed because of where it came from and how it was built.
Almost anyone that works in an academic institution is that they just want to help and they just want to educate and they just want to point people in the right direction. So even if I see, and we were talking about, and I'm going to name drop here, Tristan McIntosh at
Yep.
WashU in St. Louis. Hi, Tristan. Tristan has published a lot on mentorship. And I specifically sought out articles that Tristan and Allison Antes and James Dubois had put out because I know their work. When I see what they have out there and I want to put it in my policy because I think it's fabulous.
Right.
I just email Tristan and I say, hey, I saw this. I would like to use it. I will absolutely cite you. She immediately responded and said, of course, you have my permission, but also here's something else you might be interested in. And having that network, going to conferences, seeing those posters of really cool ways to review a study that you can apply at your own IRB or your own IACUC, and saying, hey, is it okay if I contact you to use this or adapt it or borrow it? That's all part of that learning and just wanting people to be better researchers.
Enjoying our content? We'd love to hear more. Please like, comment, share, and find more.
Yeah.
yeah, high tide raises all
Mhm.
boats, right?
Yep.
And we want and we know how often in our industry, maybe you don't have as many training resources at your
Mhm.
organization as I do, or maybe you haven't found that great mentor, and I have. Maybe you're an organization that your HR has leadership and mentorship resources, but maybe mine's not, and you're willing to share those with me, like all of that. I mean, you're mentioning James Dubois. I remember when I was in house at IU, he was working on something, and I won't go into all the details, but he was working on something that was so fantastic. We were like, could you come lecture us? I mean, like, could you please? We'll get all the people in the room, we'll pay for your time, but like, we don't just want to borrow it. We want to break it down and understand it. Would you let us pick your brain? And of course, yeah, no problem. When would you like to put it on the calendar? Let's make it happen. Also, make sure all the people you want to learn are in the room, please. The more the merrier. And that is something that I think is unfortunately just harder to accomplish in other environments. And I think it really is why and how you see problems being addressed in a different way and a different approach in an academic setting, because you're more familiar with a crowdsourcing, and you
Yeah.
have more examples to start from, right? You're not just sitting there going, I don't know, has anyone ever done this? I don't even know who to call, right? You sort of have a setup and a situation.
One of the things, and you kind of touched on this a bit with an industry or sponsors, pharmaceutical companies, they do have that, you know, I don't want to call it distrustful, but certainly concern that some of their proprietary knowledge, might be taken by a competitor. But I think faculty also experience that because
Mhm.
there is such competitiveness for funding, whether it's industry sponsoring, foundation funding, federal funding. So they also tend to play their cards very close to the vest. Whereas we in the compliance space, while we may also want to publish and get things out there, we don't have that publish or perish cycle. We're
Right.
not involved in that type of situation where we have to worry about getting tenure. We just want to get our stuff out there so people can use it. And I think
Exactly.
it's that willingness, that openness to share.
Yes.
And that goes back
Yes.
to, again, being part of an ethical ecosystem.
Find related podcasts below.
A lot of times we can find ways to share while anonymizing. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Whereas, like you're saying, if you're in the publisher parish, if you're faculty or pharmaceutical sponsor, you really may not be able to anonymize an idea enough to not feel like, shoot, somebody could steal this right out from underneath me. And that's fair. When I was at IU, and I mean, we wanted to scream it from the rooftops because we were proud of ourselves, sure, but we also wanted other people to see what we did, to see if they could model it, to see if it could help. I mean, I remember people going, can I copy this? Can I steal this? Can I have a picture of this? Can I talk to you about how you did it? Yeah, absolutely. Because what were you going to, you weren't stealing IU's property at that point. And if anything, it made us look better that our research administration had come up with a novel concept and was so willing to share it with the community. Like that builds favor with your peers in that setting, and it creates that relationship. So
Yeah,
yeah, I completely agree with
it's
you.
have a positive and effective community of practice that,
Mhm.
people are really willing to bring their ideas and say, this is what we did. It really worked for us. If you want to try it, great. Go ahead and try it. Here's the roadmap. You may not end up at the same place because again, your institutional culture is
Right,
different and you
right.
have other challenges that you face. But here's the map.
Like sometimes you're like, look, we actually only made it to stop three. We were really hoping this was going to be a success. Now, in hindsight, we know why we didn't. And we want to share that too, because we know a
Right.
lot of other people are dabbling in this particular pool right now. We don't want anybody to repeat our mistakes. So please learn from us. And that's a very special setting when you can actually go, let me tell you how I failed because I actually care for you to not have to fail too. That's really a connection. Like you said, that's a real ethical ecosystem. That's genuinely building a trusting relationship.
And just because something works at IU, it doesn't mean it's going to work at
No,
FAU.
no.
We have very different, we're not even an academic medical center. We don't even have a hospital here. And so how we do things is going to be vastly different than UF. But
Right.
the groundwork and the tenets of what we are building on are the same. That's
Yeah.
why we always say it's a floor, not a ceiling, right? But sometimes you get the ceiling, sometimes you get the walls. We're all starting from the same rules, from the same regulations. How we build up around that that's the networking, that's the institutional culture. Those are the things that really can make your program something that others aspire to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Courtney, for coming on today, sharing your wisdom, talking about your experience. Really appreciate you. And hopefully you'll be back to join us on another segment soon.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Call, click, or email.